So we're going to hit the high points of chapter 4, which is socialization. It's usually a chapter that's pretty well understood by students. And so let's just move through and hitting the high points. This is the first video. So what is socialization? Socialization is the process of transmitting culture into social behavior. Humans learn the culture around them and can adapt certain patterns of behavior. So, as I've stated before in class, this picture that I'm showing represents socialization to me visually in my mind. When you're born as a baby, you have certain impulses that are voluntary that you can't control. Involuntary that you can't control, hunger, tiredness, things like that. But most of the things that we know and that we learn throughout life, we acquire through the process of socialization. So think about the symbols that you learn, the language, how to read, how to understand what time means, how to use, a calculator, a calendar, how to go to school, how to do work, the process of going to college and meeting new people, how to conduct yourself when you go shopping, all of these things are things that are learned throughout life. So the man walking there in the picture carrying a piece of luggage, think about it that the socialization process is all of these interactions, all these tidbits of things that you're learning, you're picking up and you're putting in your suitcase and you carry it throughout your life. And then you're using the things from your past experiences to anticipate things and know how to act and how to navigate different situations as you go throughout life. And as we're going to talk about at the end, this process never ends. You are being socialized throughout your entire life. So the process begins at birth and it continues throughout your entire life. So you can read in your book, there are some great articles. They highlight children called Anna, Isabel, and Jeannie. The video that's on here, I'm going to link outside. We're not going to watch it as part of this presentation, but we want to know what kind of impact, what happens when children are not socialized or they do not go through this socialization process. We know from research that the most important learning happens very early in life. So those first few years of a child's life are critical. Think about when people see a new baby and they walk up and they look at them, they talk to them, they're very animated. That is where this socialization process begins. Well, what happens when that doesn't happen? Well, the stories of Anna, Isabel, and Jeannie document these. These are documented accounts of feral children. So there was another example not that long ago. I will try and link an article to it where a family was found that they had about 8 to 10 to 12 kids, and they were all feral children. These are children that they are denied socialization. They're locked in rooms. Jeannie, the one with the video that I'm going to link, she was locked in a cage and people didn't talk to them. They did not treat them in an age-appropriate manner. A lot of times they were withheld food, so they were small. People did not talk to them, did not interact. They didn't learn how to use the bathroom. They didn't learn how to negotiate and socialize with others. And what is found from learning about these children is that not only are they stunted socially, but in their growth, they are stunted as well. And then in these articles in your book and in this video, it even shows how, due to the lack of socialization, the brain doesn't grow and develop like it should. So from these examples, we know how important, number one, socialization is to the human process. But number two, in the example of Jeannie, even though she was found, she was rescued, and they tried to catch her up and try and get her socialized properly, the damage that was done early in life a lot of times is unable to be repaired. So make sure you reach out and watch those videos. We're going to skip through that. So that's why socialization is so, so important, especially in the early years. But even as you go throughout life, those of us, we've been going through the isolation in regards to the COVID-19 response. We've not been going out as much. People haven't been around each other as much as normal. And you also hear about how this impacts people's I shouldn't say mental illness, but it affects people's capacity at, having a healthy mental state. Being isolated isn't normal for us as humans. So we've already stated that. So I want to state number one, early in life, that is the most important time when it comes to socialization. And your family, number one, is around you the most whenever you're a child. So family is the primary socializer. Moving on from family, what is the next thing that impacts us the most in modern times? It is the mass media. So what is mass media? Mass media is communication that reaches the general population. So any form of communication that can reach a lot of people at one time. So we're talking about books, radio, television, the news when you watch it, magazines, billboards, any way to communicate to a large group of people at one time. A big part of that now in modern history is social media. Think about how many times a day you click on a link to a social media source. Most people have multiple apps, like as you see on the screen, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. Think of what an impact these things, especially Twitter. Think about our most recent election and different things that happen in our world and how that communication happens over these social media, different accounts and applications. Social media is especially influential to children. Think how quickly children can pick up on things and can learn things. And think about, I think about when I was a kid, we didn't have cartoons all the time. That was a Saturday morning thing. And when they would have Saturday morning cartoons, there would be tons of commercials for toys, cereal, because they knew that children were very influenced. Their brains are still being shaped and molded, and they knew that they were very susceptible to advertising. So marketers spent a lot of money, and kids bought a lot of cereal. Whenever I was a kid, they still had toys. I don't know if they put toys in cereal anymore. But why did you buy a particular cereal? Usually it was because you saw the toy that was being advertised on Saturday mornings. So what does mass media do for us? We learn about behavior that's expected of individuals in various social statuses. So when you follow different influencers, especially celebrities, we learn about what it's like. I mean, we're in their homes. We're learning about their daily lives, the cars they drive, the food that they eat, the products that we use. We learn what is acceptable behavior and different symbols and things of those different social statuses. We also learn about people who are in different cultures, different from us. So think about how your opinions about different cultures, different religions, different countries, how people live, different statuses, different social classes other than yourself. Where do you learn about them? Think about how your perception is shaped by what you read in books, magazines, what you see on social media. These different ways that we get information through mass media really shape our belief systems. Before we were talking about culture, remember how we were talking about how maybe we were raised to think of something being a certain way. And then as you grew up and you got to experience it yourself, you realized that maybe you didn't see things in the right way, or that your perception was misinformed, maybe. When we look at, whenever I was a kid, they used to have these books, National Geographic, and they would be in all of the classrooms. that really shaped my belief about what it was like to live in Africa, what it was like to live in some of these tribal societies. And then I grew up to learn Africa is just not full of tribes, people living, in huts, in the desert or in the jungle. That the continent of Africa has cities, it has villages, so some of these perceptions that mass media gives us are a bit inaccurate. So it's very important that we realize where information is coming from, who's supporting it, and we ask the question, is everyone and everyone's ideas represented equally? So it's a big impact. It shapes our views of other cultures.